The Scottish Government is recommending the use of face coverings on public transport and in food shops, as we were just hearing there in that discussion. The First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, says science shows there may be some benefit. Well, the Scottish Government's updated guidance is not compulsory and suggests people use cloth coverings, such as a scarf, rather than medical-grade face masks. So should the rest of the UK follow? Well, we can speak now to Tricia Greenhalgh, who's Professor of Primary Care Health Services at Oxford University. She also trained, by the way, as a GP. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. What's your view then on face coverings? There's a lot of different evidence, isn't there? We heard at the Downing Street press briefing from the scientific advisor to the government saying actually it was rather weak evidence.
Yes, my own view is that the evidence is very strong in favour of members of the public wearing face coverings. I think it depends which evidence you look at, but if you look at in the round at the totality of evidence, the evidence of droplet infection in COVID-19, that's the way it's spread, the evidence that 2 pieces of folded over cloth can stop droplets, and also all the natural experiments of some 50 countries which have now made masks for the lay public either mandatory or recommended. In every single one of those countries, the wearing of face coverings has been associated with a reduction in the spread of this terrible disease.
I think one of the concerns people have, perhaps in government, is that wearing face coverings gives people a full sense of security, perhaps tempts them to encroach on some of the social distancing rules, so that actually they get closer to other people than they would have done otherwise.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely no evidence for that. It's funny how people talk about the lack of evidence, and yet this idea of risk compensation is brought out again and again with no evidence whatsoever to back it up. If that was the case, we would be seeing examples of countries like Hong Kong with 97.5% adherence to the face covering recommendation, and you'd see places like Hong Kong with problems. But actually what's happened in those countries is that the spread of coronavirus has gone down. So I don't think there is risk compensation, and some of the other arguments against face coverings, like it makes you touch your face more. Where is the evidence for that? There is no evidence. The evidence seems to be quite strongly in favour of face coverings, and I'm absolutely delighted that Nicola Sturgeon has taken this on board and made a positive recommendation, which I think is going to save lives in Scotland.
The other argument is actually that you're much more likely to get the virus inside, so that if you are going to wear face coverings, more important to wear them inside rather than outdoors. What would you say about that?
The way you get the virus is by catching a droplet that's come out of someone else's mouth or nose. So if you're walking your dog in the woods with nobody around, then there's no need to wear a face covering. If, on the other hand, you're standing in a queue in Sainsbury's, there's an awful lot of people around you who could catch a droplet from you, or you could catch a droplet from them. So it's not so much indoors or outdoors, but how close you are to other people, which of course is why we've got social distancing. But in areas where we can't socially distance, like on the tube train, for example, and in aeroplanes, then face coverings are a very important public health measure.
And if people are, and obviously people at the moment are making their own decisions about whether they want to wear them or not, but what would you say, what advice would you give about what sort of face coverings people should use and wear?
Well, I was on with Blue Peter presenters the other day, so here's one I made earlier. I've taken a blue handkerchief and a white handkerchief, and I've also got some stretchy strapping, which I made from an old pair of tracksuit bottoms. It's a very comfortable face covering, 2 layers of cotton. It's very soft against my face. I kept it on for 2 hours the other day when I was out and about town doing shopping and things. And I think that's what we need to do. There's plenty of patterns on the internet. And actually, if you can't make your own, if you haven't got access to a sewing machine, I've got a bandana here, and you can just do that. And the reason why homemade face coverings are okay, the reason why none of us need to wear a medical grade mask that was designed for doctors and nurses, is that cotton is a very good blocker of droplets, and droplets are what come out of your mouth and nose. The reason why the doctors have to wear the medical grade mask is that by the time the droplets have gone through the air and reached the other person, they've become aerosolized and they've got much smaller. So the medical grade masks are there to protect the wearer, but to protect other people from the things coming out of your mouth and nose, a cotton mask is fine. Remember, my mask protects you, your mask protects me.
Right. So very interesting to see the one that you've made yourself. And so cotton is that's your message. Cotton is best.
Cotton is pretty good, yes. I think, the experts in materials science will probably find other materials which are even better. I heard silk was particularly good, but I haven't got any silk. I've got plenty of old bits of cotton, and so have most people watching this program. So get your sewing machines out or get your old bandanas. I think, you don't have to wait for the government to tell you to do this.
Good to talk to you. Thank you very much for being with us, Professor Trish Greenhoff, who's an internationally recognised academic in primary healthcare at Oxford University. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Right, we're going to get a look at the weather prospects now. They come from Darren Bett.